Greetings, nerds. This is SNN Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
I'm doing well, Sarah. How you doing this evening?
So, I just had a thought.
Yeah, what's up?
Oh, what's the show schedules like next week? Is everything off?
Yeah, so let's see. As far as the Arrowverse, they are indefinitely taking a break for a little while. So I seem to remember reading an article. I think I posted one on our show page that the Flash will return some point. I want to say in mid-April.
Okay.
And Supergirl and Batwoman are probably around the same. The other thing about the Flash that I read was that it looks like it's going to be an abbreviated season. So I think they had gotten, yeah, so yeah.
That's so mean.
Yeah, I think they got to so Supergirl, I believe, I want to say they finished their 19th episode. Batwoman, I know Batwoman, I think it's gotten to at least 18 or 19, because I know James Bamford was directing, I think, episode 18 for Batwoman, and I think they had another one that they may have finished beforehand. And Supergirl, I think they were close to finishing up as well. So I think everybody had about 2 to 3 episodes left to go.
But everything was there's no new episodes of Batwoman and Supergirl airing right now.
That's correct. Yeah, so they were supposed to air tonight, and then CW pushed them back. I saw where they pushed the Flash. Like, as I said, I think they were returning around the week of April 12th or later, because Stargirl got pushed back until mid to late May, and then Supernatural and all the other CW shows all got pushed back. So
yeah.
Jared
and Jensen, how would you like to be them right now? They're on their final season of a 15-season running long show, and yet they can't. It's prolonged now, and I'm in a way they must feel a little bit grateful because they still have time to enjoy it, and it's a bittersweet moment to walk away from that. But on the other hand, it's just like, we should have already been done.
Yeah, they should have been. Well, and so because I know Supernatural and Legends of Tomorrow actually did a crossover episode, and so I think that was one of the last episodes for each to air before everyone got put on a scheduling remix because of COVID. But Legends did finish their season, so they've wrapped. I can't recall if Supernatural's wrapped yet or not, but everything's getting thrown off because of COVID.
Yeah. No, I just had a shot that I have no idea what we're going to talk about next week.
Oh, no, we have plenty, because you gave me a great suggestion of a show, Little Fires Everywhere. And I'm like, oh, this show is just so good. It's just so good. It's like Picard coming to an end and looking for something new. There's also season 2 of Harley Quinn that starts on the DC universe.
I haven't even watched season 1, but yeah, continue.
Yeah, so there's that. There's the show Dave's. It was a slow burn, so maybe we could
That's a Nick Offerman show?
Yeah, that's a Nick Offerman show.
Dave?
Yep.
Okay. You sent me that trailer. I watched the trailer, and I don't know if I'm completely on board with that show.
Yeah.
Just by trailer alone, usually with a trailer, I'll be either super excited or I'll be like, huh, okay. So maybe if I'm really, really bored, which, quarantine right now, everyone's pretty at the point of, I have no idea what else I can binge.
Yeah.
So, but there was something about it where I'm just like, this is another Fox show. It's very, I don't know. It didn't appeal to me.
Yeah, I did watch the pilot this weekend, and it's definitely a slow burn. I freely admit I was looking. It was hard to stay locked into it. Unlike the show you recommended to me, Little Fires Everywhere, but which I was locked in, and really, really, really enjoyed. So, but yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely going to be start really mining the Netflix. I'm thinking, I've been seeing all weekend the whole what's it,
Tiger King.
Yeah, Tiger King. Yeah.
So okay. I understand. We're all in quarantine. We've all like our need for entertainment has significantly increased.
Mhm.
I watched majority of it.
Okay.
In the end though, it just is they stretched it too long,
Mm.
and they jumped all over the place, and instead of just focusing on one person, they ended up focusing on three, when I can make an argument they should have just focused on the two main people, the person who was accused of the murder plan, and then the victim who didn't get murdered, so she's not really a victim, but whatever. But it just, and then it gets to the point where you're just like, this is kind of just watching people who are, I don't know, a bit pathetic.
Maybe
so
that's
what's the point?
Yeah, maybe that's why it's like doing so well, because everyone is just like, yeah, we're all stuck at home, but at least our lives are not as shitty as theirs.
Yeah. That was my pitch to my dad last night when I was telling him, hey, if you're really bored, you might want to go check out this show. Everybody's raving about it right now. So yeah, but Little Fires Everywhere is the one I would recommend. And something to note about that show, it's set in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the props people had to be very deliberate about the staging of movies, because Joshua Jackson and Reese Witherspoon, very popular actor and actress of the 90s.
Very much, yep.
And I never thought of it. I was watching it, and I listened to an interview, and they brought that up, and I'm like, oh yeah, this isn't a show that's gonna go the meta route all of a sudden. No.
No, not at all. Not at all.
No, but geez, they were pretty big. So yeah, the things we do when shows like Picard ends.
Yeah, I know. And it was, what an ending it was.
Was it?
Well, for me as a Star Trek fan, I have to say that the finale, I wiped away the abomination of Star Trek Nemesis for me as a Star Trek fan. Because given that was the last feature film with the original crew, and that film, Data died. Mm-hmm. And the way the death was handled was just, I refuse to watch that film just because it's just, I just can't, as a Star Trek. I mean, every Star Trek fan has their one episode or one film that they can't watch. I'll even watch Insurrection over watching Star Trek Nemesis. Mm-hmm. Because of what they did in that film. It's just really, yeah.
So that's interesting, because I don't really have recollection of any of the films. I think I've seen a few of them, but this has been almost my problem with the entire season, is that they very much walk this line between new story, original content. Yes, it takes place in a franchise we all already are aware of, and there's all of history. So then they also skew very heavy towards fan service, to where if you're brand new, like arguably I am, I'm watching it and I'm just like, all right, let's wrap this up. Data, yeah, man, this is a lot of data at the end. and it was, and maybe it's because I actually really liked the penultimate episode.
Yeah.
I liked episode 9 a lot. It was fast. Mm-hmm. There was momentum. Mm-hmm. There were changes. There was a lot of, these are the synths. And then it got into a weird conversation about the organics versus the inorganics. And I just thought about food immediately. It was bad. It's just as soon as they started calling themselves or referring to humans as the organics, I'm just like, really? You can't just call them humans. Really? That's
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
you have to push it. Not
Well,
even Homo sapiens. I don't know.
yeah. Well, it's graduated from it's better than carbon-based units. So
Yeah, I actually would have preferred that because, again, the food tie in there just drove me crazy. It made me laugh every time. But I really liked that, and I liked majority of the finale.
yeah,
I liked majority of it. A bit anticlimactic, though, with the space wars, and then Will coming in to save the day,
yeah.
and
Apparently, they and you could probably I once I read this after the fact. So apparently, with the post production, they didn't get the visual effects done until like a week prior to the episode airing,
it showed. It
and it
showed.
totally
It showed.
showed. Yeah, yeah,
I that was actually what's towards the end it got wonky, which sucks because there is an image at the beginning of the finale where you have the cube crash landed on that planet and you have you see Narek running in the distance but really it's just this image that I just felt like, man, you just freeze, put that on a poster and give it to Will. Happy birthday. Like that's beautiful
yeah,
because it's almost this perfect symmetry of reality and this universe that Star Trek is all combined into one image. It made me think of Krypton.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a very good reach there because yeah, that was a very I liked the penultimate. I did like it better than the finale, which that's not this. It's interesting. That's very a very common thing I've been finding here lately, where
Yeah.
I like the penultimate episode better because, one of the things that, in addition to the space orchid, which was very visually stunning and very Star Trek, was the logic of sacrifice.
Yep.
And it's just and I think for me as a Star Trek fan, it was very, very appealing and very, it's that through line that all the series has had. I mean, between original with Spock passing and being and the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, and then all the way up through Enterprise and Discovery. There's always been that sacrifice that a character has to make, and we saw that with Picard and Penultimate because all of a sudden his disorder resurfaced. It was touched on before they left Earth, and I was like, it was like, oh yeah, it was, it's a definite callback to the finale of Next Generation, and then he when they get to the transwarp conduit and he has the sudden attack of it, you realize it really crystallizes the sacrifice he's made to do this journey to bring Soji to Caparlis, to her homeworld. And it wasn't until that moment that it really, like, I mean, it's always been there, but it really was captured in that moment whenever he realizes that, by doing this, I have set forth the inevitable.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a trust that he also touches on as well, where I did all of this because I believe in you, and it's not that we're trying to take away her choice, which honestly I thought what they also did was make Soji not appear as someone who's easily swayed, but more as like, no, of course, coming from her who just figured out that what she really was, and then all of these different perceptions of what that means, and how that her identity is completely annihilated with this revelation. I think it does make sense with most of her actions. And there was just a lot of convenience happening towards the end there, where I felt like between both episodes, it felt very, to use their words, organic.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, it just got to a point where the writers are just like, okay, so we have to wrap this up. Okay, let's do the thing where we crack open the sky, and then conveniently it takes the monster like just in the nick of time before releasing itself into the galaxy. It's suddenly the hole is closed. I don't know.
Yeah.
All this weird stuff where I'm just like, you guys couldn't have thought of. And then they left a loose end that drove me crazy. Well, actually, there was two flaws that I saw.
Okay.
The ones, and they both have to do with the same character, Narek. Okay. Why was he released in the penultimate episode?
So he was released by Sutra, as we learned later,
Right.
to basically set in motion her, whenever she did the mind meld with Agnes at the very beginning, she saw what Commander O had shared with her.
Correct.
And basically that organic life, and whenever I saw that moment, I couldn't help but think the Cylons.
Yeah.
But
no, I understand that.
Yeah.
But, so she helps him kill this other clone. I'm just gonna say synth, organic, whatever.
Yeah.
So she kills this person, and then that's what everyone is like, yeah, down with the organics.
Exactly.
Why didn't she just kill Narek?
Because if she had killed Narek, then she wouldn't have been able to basically persuade the other synths. Because basically the synths are very like sheep, and they listen to the strongest voice in the room.
Exactly.
So
I saw that he was killing her, so I killed him.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, so if she hadn't killed the other synth, then Picard would have basically persuaded the synths in that moment when they were in the courtyard there to basically listen to him, and that synths and humans can coexist.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
One of the synths still has to die. I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
But she does not need to then set Narek free. That was her mistake.
Yeah, well, I think Narek just has great game, like his sister said, and so because she was very basic, she was very direct with him whenever he got back.
If he has such great game, then why didn't he convince the writers to actually write him in and have an ending in the story? Because Narek disappears.
Yeah.
And they don't tell us what happens to him or anything. It's really odd, and what irritates me is that there is a moment where Soji and Narek finally come face to face, and it's all about lying and the deceit and everything. But there should be a follow-up, after everything is resolved. I was just waiting for that follow-up. Instead, we were just shown everybody crying over Picard's so-called death, which actually didn't happen.
It did happen. He died.
He died, but okay, then
he
again,
was so
convenience.
Yeah, it was convenience, but he did actually die. I mean, it was, and let's finish the Narek thing, and then we can talk about Picard's quote unquote death.
Oh, I'm already done with the.
You're done with Narek? Okay, cool. All right.
I've made my case. People agree with me.
Nah, well, Narek, no, I'll just say that basically Narek had to. The only thing I'll leave it alone after this is he needed to be freed so that he could basically team up with Rafi and Rios so that they could all save the day, and then he gets left on this planet to be the villain in season 2, because his mission's not complete. But let's get I don't know. I mean, that was definitely a loose end. That needs to be resolved. But Picard's death, he is dead. He died. The Golem, I thought, was actually whenever they introduced the Golem in the penultimate. At first, I thought it was going to be for Maddox, possibly, but then they conveniently, used this MacGuffin as a way to kill Picard. And I think the important thing with Picard's death was it brings his story full circle, because he was partially synth himself, when you think about it, because he has an artificial heart. Uh-huh. He was abducted by the Borg. He still has shadows of his time of Locutus in him. And once a Borg, always a Borg, I guess, because how easy it was for Seven to reorient with the collective in a couple episodes back. So it was really his story of and the through line throughout the season that humans in sense can live and work together. So by his death and then again placed in this Golem, it basically brings Picard's life story full circle and also gives him closure with Data, which I was discussing before, how I just hated how they treated those two characters and Nemesis. We got Picard's ending, but also Data's ending, because for the moment Data was introduced to us in Encounter at Farpoint, his whole thing was his quest to become more human. And so I thought, even though, it may have went a minute or two longer than it should have, they did a phenomenal job of basically Data fulfilling his dream through Picard's death.
Yeah, I really like the Data aspects of this whole death, but not really a death. And if you deny that one more time, well, this is going to be a short podcast episode. Because I know he didn't really die, but it's also hard for me to say, well, yeah, this is the end of Picard's story. No, they're getting a season 2, and right. He's going to be a part of season 2. So it's what really they allowed to happen is what you're talking about with the end of that other movie where fans, there was no closure, and this offers a lot of closure. Yeah. It offers all of that baggage to be done. It's dead. It is buried 6 feet under. There is no copying of any molecular or molecule. Man.
Yep.
Man, quarantine is not doing good things for my brain.
It happens. Yeah, being in the EOC for 3 weeks does it too.
So I agree. I like that. I like how they did a very circle ending too, because as soon as he wakes up and he sees Data in the simulation, I immediately go back to the pilot and the first scene of the pilot, which was him a part of the simulation, which also, by the way, there was some clear Gladiator references in this episode. That really also kind of, because in Gladiator, okay, a callback and spoiler alert, Russell Crowe's character is constantly dreaming about returning home, and he's in the fields and he's approaching, and there's always a shot of him, his hand going through, and they did that with Picard.
They did, but I guess in Picard it was the painting.
Well, yeah, which led, but the shooting, I just immediately went to Gladiator as soon as I saw that initial shot of him walking, and I'd forgotten about the painting.
Yeah, but the painting.
I liked more that image of Picard and Data playing chess or checkers. Mm-hmm. I think it was chess.
It was chess.
And Picard wanting to stay playing the game, which out of convenience he gets to continue staying playing the game.
Yeah, but see, that's the new thing. I guess that's the thing with Picard in his new journey, because he basically still, as Soong said, he basically puts Picard, instead of giving him the ideal body of a young man who can, again, live a full life, or heck, he could have like made him another, given the Soongs how big their egos are, made another image of himself.
Mhm.
Uh, but again, he gave Picard a second chance, but the difference is Picard has the benefit of all the wisdom of his years, all his successes and frailties. How I think this journey, this show really presented the arrogance of Picard and the flaws of Picard, and I think in his dying and getting that closure with Data, he met his mortality. And
Oh, well, I think he was confronted with exactly your point, the arrogance that he felt like he needed to say he needed redemption.
mhm,
And Data in that, which was my favorite moment and piece of dialogue in the probably in the entire season, is when Data just looks at him and is like, you just sacrificed yourself for Soji
mhm,
and you're not apologetic. So how can you think the same of me? And it's like people, when you sacrifice, you're making a purposeful choice.
mhm.
It's your choice, and you choose someone else's life over you. There is nothing that that person who you are saving can do to prevent it, and there's also there's no resentment like, oh, I wish, because you're deliberate about it.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true. And I think that really captures Data,
Hmm.
and again, and they used his sacrifice and nemesis in a way that helps drive Picard, provides that closure for Picard in this season finale, where and so he can go back and really, like, again, given he's got that second chance, he could really explore his life in a new way that's not tied to his prior life as captain of the Enterprise, or the Federation. Because when we finish this season, they are all on La Serena, and they are
Yep.
off to do some new adventure that's not tied to Starfleet.
Yep. 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 They're rangers, some
Hmm.
would argue.
Yeah, yeah, they are. They are
Yeah.
to go after
I
go after
take
go after Narek, since that thread was left open.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it did feel like a very much, and we've been alluding to this whenever we talk about the season. A lot of this season was spent forming the crew,
Hmm.
and by the end of it, oh, which Agnes,
Yeah.
her whole, the moment that she was like, "I'm not their mother," I
Hmm.
was like, okay, okay. Will and I called it. There
Yep.
was a maternal look when she first saw Soji.
Hmm. Yep.
And
There was.
and
That's right.
I really like what they did with her character, because I think arguably out of all of them, she could have become the most cliche,
Hmm.
having been the mole, having been the human, the naive character, but they really twisted it, and made her very three-dimensional. I think the biggest mistake with that character, though, is this weird thing with her and Rios. I
Yep.
don't buy it. I
I don't
do
buy it
not
either.
buy
Yeah.
their chemistry.
Yeah. It definitely felt forced.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not buy it either way. From I mean, when she had the guilt hookup with him, it was like, okay, but then they, if they had just left it there, I think it would have been okay. I would have been okay with it. But
Yeah.
then they kept trying to foster this relationship between them, and I mean, hell, I bought the Rafi and Seven holding hands more than Rios Agnes.
And see, that was out of left field for me too. And here's why. A lot of times with these dynamics, you actually have to show the characters on screen together. There has to be moments of connection.
Yeah.
And just going through the ship and people holding hands. I mean, you are right to an extent that like over Rios and Agnes, I buy that more. But with Rio and Agnes, it's like they would push them together when they needed something to do with both characters, and then purposely keep them apart because Rios spent the most time with Ralphie.
Yeah.
Like, that was the most, and honestly, some of the looks that he was giving Soji, I was like, they're going to do with that.
Yeah, they were going to do that. Well, at first I thought he was very leery of Soji, and then also when we realized that whenever Rios and Ralphie had the story about Soji's cousin.
Inorganic?
Yeah, inorganic, yeah. What was, I can't remember, I'm blanking on her name now, but
Who cares? She's dead.
She's dead, yeah. But, yeah, so I think that was, they tied that thread together, and so I get where that was coming from. As far as Ralphie, yeah.
I think you wanted to say something that would make my point really wrong. Because when Rios gives Soji the food and she's like, how did you know? Like, milkshake and fries. There's a very fatherly aspect of that chapter.
True. There was. Yeah.
Oh, Picard.
Yeah, Picard. But I was just going to say about Ralphie and Seven. There was the show. I guess when they were in Free Cloud, when they had their moment with the handcuffs and stuff. They did have some interaction and all. So, and of course, I used the unfortunate reference to handcuffs, but
Oh man, this show is going downhill.
Yeah, but I recognize.
Well, it was a very Guardians of the Galaxy moment to see the crew blast off next adventure.
Yeah, it was.
And I'm glad. I mean, despite all of my criticism, and I will still stand by my point about Narek and that whole like that big flaw that still bothers me and probably will up until the second season.
Whenever that happens, because everything is postponed. But anyway.
I know. But so overall, no, it was a really, despite my criticism of the finale connected itself back to the beginning, and it did make the whole journey worth it in the end.
It did. I completely agree with you there. I mean, as I said, I did like the penultimate better. Felt that there were times that the finale did sort of drag a bit, but overall, we did get to see Riker again. So to your point about fan service, they had the fan service. They definitely made nice with the fans with giving that Data a proper send-off and closing that journey of his that started way back in 1987 with the encounter at Farpoint. And yeah, I would have been, if they had only had one season, I would have been happy with that. But I think, but I think there is a lot of potential for a second season, especially given that Picard is now in that column and he doesn't have to worry about the neurological disease. So, the sky's the limit as far as where they can go with this new journey.
Yeah. Speaking about journeys and delayed shows, there was an episode of Batwoman and Supergirl that aired last week. What did you think about Alex's grief over her father's death?
It felt like they were just using that as a moment to write Dean Cain away.
It's been a while since I've thought about the episode. I
Yeah,
will say, initial reaction, I liked it.
I
I
did
liked
too.
the episode overall. I'm used to premises like that where um, you get stuck, and I like how there was one moment where you felt like Alex got out of the simulation only to realize that she was still stuck in it.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a good editing choice.
Hmm.
And overall, I liked it. I can't remember a majority of it, but
I tried to rewatch most of it today, and I got through a good chunk of it because it has been it's been a week now, and so I did really enjoy it. The one thing that really stood out to me was how underutilized they have been of Shiler Lee.
yeah,
I mean, she clearly, I mean, she carried the hour because I think as far as in real life production was I think Melissa was prepping to direct the next episode whenever it airs. So they, use this as an opportunity to showcase Alex. But I mean, Alex is, we saw this in season 4 when whenever they wiped her memory so that she wouldn't give away Kara's identity to
the director, the
yeah,
new director of DEO. I know who you're
DEO.
talking about.
Yeah, the new director of the DEO, and
Yeah, see, you've gone down a season 4 path that we're
yeah,
never gonna get out of. So yes, when they wiped her memory in season 4, she showed off her acting skills.
yes, exactly. Thanks for rescuing me there, Al. yeah, but I mean, she did that again in this episode, and ever since we got teased with whenever she posted on her Instagram, her in the Supergirl, in her version of the Supergirl costume. I've been looking forward to this episode, and I'm hoping that they will, if the story gives them a chance to go and do the VR simulations in the future, where Alex just needs to stress relief and she becomes Supergirl again. I hope they can do it because it was a lot of fun, and seeing her take on Hank Henshaw. Yeah, I really enjoyed the episode, and it's been a few weeks of where I can say I've from start to finish I've enjoyed a Supergirl episode.
Yeah. And then meanwhile, Batwoman, I think I got too hyped up for this episode. And overall, I thought it was good. I've seen worse episodes of Batwoman. And I appreciate the team up of Alice and Kate to get Mouse out. And then what really made this episode work, and if they have to take a break, they oddly enough found the perfect episode and cliffhanger to leave it on, because in the end, it's Alice isn't the one pulling any tricks or saying any lies. It's all Kate. Kate ultimately, she allows Alice and Mouse to reunite, but the joke is on Alice because she is now also locked up in Arkham Asylum.
Yeah.
And I thought that was done beautifully overall.
It was. I mean, it was this. I really enjoyed this past week's episode. We did get the team up, and it to me it lived up to what we've seen of how well Ruby Rose and Rachel Skarsten plays off each other.
Yeah.
And so now instead of them being adversarial, they are having to work together to save Mouse and save all these people from Arkham, because he's under he's under the fear drug from scarecrows, and just those little fun moments that they had, like for example, the two that stick out to me are one when Alice was starting to size up Kate to see if they were like the same size, because and then the other was when they were in the nurse's living room, and and with the knife and doing the switchblade and doing the tricks and stuff, and it's just the banter between the two of them, and like the one up who can one up the other person. Those two moments stick out to me, as well as just the very beginning of the episode when Alice thinks she has the goods on both,
Right.
on both her father and Kate, with the murder of Mouse's dad. So those are the things that like really work well in this episode. And the other thing that they did super well to me this week was having a very solid B story with Luke.
Yes. I agree. Kate and Alice actually got to be sisters in this episode, which we don't get a lot of, and it allows you to really understand the complexity of that relationship. I mean, now both Kate has betrayed her sister and locked her up, and also a few episodes ago, Kate also betrayed her sister and tried to kill her, essentially.
Yeah, multiple times. Yeah, it's like,
so this isn't all about Alice, which I think with Alice originally we were very fearful it would become a caricature and like, oh, the sister who is gone crazy and all this, but they've really allowed it to. Kate has made some missteps, arguably.
Yeah.
But it's also very logical. It makes sense. I mean, as much as you love her, she's also a deranged lunatic. So
yeah, she is, and that really, they've really set that up very, very well, and using Alice as a foil to bring those flaws in Kate out. That and I'm glad they had and one thing I've been missing is her narration and her diary to Bruce. And they brought that back this week. And, and so so again she's realizing that there are some lines that she thought, there's some lines that she has crossed that Bruce never did. And again, it really distinguishes the two of the characters without it being, without how it was in the first few episodes, where it was just like Bruce this and Batman that and Batman that. Now it's just sort of like it's just organically flows in the story how she's crossed the line Bruce hasn't crossed, which is even though she wasn't in the bat costume when she did it, she still has murdered someone.
Yep.
And and then, like I said, with the Luke and story, with carrying forward the time that Jacob was in prison and found out that Lucius was Lucius's murderer was not the guy they thought it was, and Luke having to sit in the courtroom, and also I like the way that Luke and Mary have really they've really built them as a good pairing in the show, and it's been a very natural way they've done it. Without, I'm sure people are already shipping them, but
I called that episodes ago.
Yeah,
episodes ago. I called that last fall.
You did. You totally did. And you've been proven correct once again. And so
I know. But to your point, in this episode, again, it was organic when Mary comes and she's like, I just lost my mother. So, yeah, I know how this feels. And arguably, Mary has now encountered her mother's murderer a few times.
Yeah, exactly.
So she identifies with that. The thing about Mary, though, is they're really leaving open this. She's on the part of the inner circle, but not really with Luke and Kate. And I'm sure that if Luke and her do end up getting involved in any sort of relationship, they might fall into a trope of, you realize you've been withholding this secret and keeping, like, and you're lying to me and I know you are. It was a solid B storyline, which we've covered so many of these shows that we know episodes will either be really good and really well-rounded or really bad if that B storyline is not working.
The last point I'll make about Batwoman is we did see Julia Pennyworth back, and we thought, if I recall in the series, they set it up where she was, she encountered Sophie, and I thought that they had set it up where Sophie thought Julia was Batwoman, not Kate, and so they worked it in at the end there where I thought they were going to like take Kate, Sophie, and Pennyworth in some relationship direction, but they actually ended up having Pennyworth and Kate kiss.
Also, if Julia ever does kiss Sophie, and then Sophie automatically thinks, oh, that's Batwoman, I call big flaw, because she has now kissed Kate multiple times while in the Batwoman suit, and therefore should realize it's Kate.
Exactly. Yeah, which was kind of like, so they got, at some point, they'll have to, I'm sure they will have Sophie realize that Kate is Batwoman, but yeah, that was just one of those moments in the episode. I was just like, okay, it was a C story, and it didn't detract from the overall episode like we've seen in other Arrowverse shows, but that they're building this world and continue to bring back the characters, in a reasonable time, that we don't forget about them. Unlike Jeremiah, who we hadn't seen since season 2 of Supergirl. So.
Oh, I forgot who Jeremiah was again.
Yeah, see, yeah, exactly. That's my point.
Will, you have thrown out so many things to me. Who Jeremiah is. All right, so clearly that is it for us tonight. Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me at Will M. Polk, WILLMPOLK.
And you can find me at SJ Belmont, SJBELMONT. Please follow our crew on Twitter at CNN Nerd. Friend us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram. But most importantly, rate, subscribe, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.